He chased success for 40 years until a child taught him the truth. Hey guys, tonight we begin in the pale blue wash of early morning light, the kind that slips under blackout curtains and hits your face just wrong. Never gentle, always too soon. You shift beneath your weighted blanket, not quite ready to face the day. But the day, of course, doesn't care. The alarm's gone off twice already. Your phone buzzes with meetings you barely remember scheduling. And somewhere in the corner, your laptop hums, always watching, always waiting. You swing your feet onto the cold floor. Welcome to the climb. It starts the same every morning. You trudge past the untouched treadmill, glance briefly at the untouched green juice, and tell yourself that if you crush this week, really crush it, you'll take a real break next month. Maybe. The grind is your god now. You brush your teeth while reading emails, you rehearse presentations in the shower, and you eat breakfast like a hostage, standing phone in hand, scrolling LinkedIn like it's scripture. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment below, tell me where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. Bonus points if you're listening from bed with socks on. Trust me, sock sleepers are an elite group. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're 62 years old, and your name is Raymond. But no one calls you that anymore. Everyone calls you Ray, the guy who turned 3 failing startups into one monstrous tech empire. You've got a private driver, a 3-story loft in Tribeca, and a calendar that books out 6 months in advance. You're the kind of guy who writes reminders to rest, but schedules the reminder during a staff meeting. And yet, you can't shake the itch. It's the itch behind your left shoulder blade where your therapist says you hold your stress. The tension that never quite fades. It's the buzzing in your brain at 2:38 a.m., reminding you that you still haven't closed that merger or called your sister back. She sent you a photo of your niece's art show 4 days ago. In the middle of your immaculate kitchen, you pour artisanal coffee into a mug that reads, "World's Okayest Boss." You bought it ironically, but the barista laughed a little too earnestly when she saw it. You didn't like that. You sit at your Stone Island countertop alone, scrolling mindlessly through numbers and stock tickers, wondering very quietly, very privately, what it's all for. Then you shake it off and stand straightening your perfectly tailored jacket. Today's another climb. There's no summit, but that's never mattered. You just keep climbing. Here's a fun historical side note. Emperor Diocletian of Rome, after reigning for over 2 decades and restructuring the entire empire, famously retired to grow cabbages in his garden. Scholars still argue whether he regretted abdicating the throne or whether he just got tired of the paperwork. You can't picture yourself with cabbage. You've never even held a shovel. So instead, you head out. Chauffeur waiting. Schedule locked. Success, after all, waits for no one, and especially not for men like you who still think rest is for the lazy, and that every missed call might be the one that ruins everything. You're sprinting up a ladder that disappears into the fog, and you're not sure when you last looked down. The conference in Miami is all white marble floors and forced laughter. You step into the Hilton Ballroom where the AC is aggressive enough to qualify as a weather system. The sea of suits buzzes with the same phrases: synergy, vertical integration, user retention, like everyone swallowed the same tired TED Talk. And now they're just regurgitating it in different keynotes. You're the keynote. Ray Carmichael, CEO, visionary, mentor. That's what your introduction slide says, as if those labels aren't at war with each other. You climb on stage, lights in your eyes, mic clipped to your collar, and you deliver your polished, confident, entirely hollow speech. And here's the thing, they clap. They always clap. But halfway through your slides, something in your voice cracks. Maybe no one else hears it, but you hear it. That tiny stutter, like your soul accidentally bumped into the truth. You forget a line. You glance at the monitor. Your palm suddenly feels wet. You take a sip of water to buy time and joke that your Apple Watch just told you to breathe. The audience laughs politely. But that moment sits inside you like a cold stone. When you walk off stage, someone from a venture firm offers you coffee and a contract. You sign one and decline the other. You can't remember which. On your way back to your room, a reporter chases you down for a comment on your latest acquisition. You smile and say it's all about innovation. Then you get into the elevator, press the button for the 32nd floor, and stare at your reflection. The suit fits, the smile doesn't. Back in 1911 at the International Hygiene Exhibition in Dresden, yes, that was a real thing. They showcased the ideal businessman's posture. It included a diagram, a bench, and something resembling a corset. Historians still debate whether it was more about health or ego. You sit down in your hotel chair and realize you've been holding your breath since breakfast. You turn on the TV to silence your thoughts. It's a nature documentary. A lioness licking her cubs. You wonder when you last felt that kind of quiet, unashamed affection. Then, your phone buzzes again. You have a dinner with 3 investors in an hour, and you still haven't answered that text from your niece. You close your eyes. For a second, just one, you wish you could disappear. Not die, not run away. Just vanish. Not be needed, not be impressive, not be Ray. But the world doesn't work that way. Not when you're on top. So you stand, adjust your cufflinks, and head back down into the hurricane of handshakes and ambition. The suit fits, the mask fits better. And somewhere in a crowded lobby smelling faintly of overpriced cologne and coconut lotion, you spill your coffee. Because of course the lid wasn't on right. And that's when the boy appears. You mutter a curse under your breath, dabbing at the spreading brown stain on your crisp white shirt with a cocktail napkin that's mostly embossed branding and zero absorbency. The coffee has already soaked through to your undershirt. Of course it has. And as you crouch to retrieve your phone, which now has a smear of caramel drizzle along its edge, you hear a voice. Do you always spill stuff when you're in a rush? You glance up, mildly annoyed, expecting a snarky adult. Instead, standing barely at hip height is a little boy with messy hair, jelly on his cheek, and a plastic dinosaur sticking out of his coat pocket. He's holding a half-eaten cracker and looking at you with the unblinking confidence of someone who's never sat through a meeting in their life. I guess I do, you reply, blinking. He plops down on the carpet like it's a living room and offers you a cracker as if it's a peace treaty between kingdoms. You take it. It crumbles instantly in your hand, of course, but the gesture disarms you. His name is Luca. He's 7. He's traveling with his aunt, who's stuck in a long line at the front desk. He doesn't like Miami because it's too shiny. He tells you this while rearranging tiny dinosaur toys into what appears to be a prehistoric negotiation. You glance at your phone, it's flashing calendar alerts. You silence it. You sit down. In 1958, at the Brussels World's Fair, there was a pavilion designed entirely for children, with interactive exhibits, soft lighting, and even smell-based storytelling. It was radical for its time, and historians still argue whether it was truly built for education or just as a PR stunt for post-war optimism. Either way, you can't help but wonder, when was the last time anyone built anything just for joy? Luca taps your shoe. So what do? You pause. It's such a small question. Innocent. Basic. It's the question people ask on planes, at parties, at reunions, where nobody remembers your spouse's name, but they remember your title. You have the answer memorized. You run a technology firm. You optimize business ecosystems. You've scaled 5 operations and acquired 12 companies in 14 years. But you don't say any of that. You open your mouth and nothing comes out. Do you make toys? Luca asks helpfully, eyes hopeful. No, you say, and it feels heavier than it should, not even close. He squints at you, thoughtful. Then why do you look so tired? And just like that, you feel it. The crack forming. The dam behind your teeth trembles. Because you are tired. Tired in the bones, in the dreams, in the mornings that feel like reruns of a life you forgot you chose. You sit back, watch the tiny dinosaurs fall into formation again, and wonder what kind of life makes a child think making toys is the happier job. You don't realize it yet, but that question will follow you through every room, every meeting, every silence after that day. And it all started with a cracker and a coffee stain. You fly back to New York that evening, first class, of course, but it doesn't feel like luxury anymore. It feels like altitude sickness with extra legroom. Your seat reclines too far back, the wine is too sweet, and the lobster ravioli tastes like a memo. But the boy's question echoes. Why do you look so tired? You sit in seat 3A, staring blankly at the clouds as your brain replays the moment on loop. Every time you try to push it away, it circles back, more insistent. You shift in your chair. You flip through the in-flight entertainment. You start a documentary on Japanese calligraphy because it looks quiet, but end up watching nothing. About halfway through the flight, turbulence nudges your glass of water off the tray. You catch it this time. Progress, you think. But then, As if the universe enjoys irony, you drop your napkin and bend to pick it up. And that's when you see it. A crayon drawing wedged between the seat and the window. Must have been Luca's. You pull it out gently. It's a crude sketch stick figures and rainbows. There's a treehouse, a T-Rex, and a smiling sun with the words, "Me and my friend him," scrawled underneath in wobbly handwriting. You. You're him. You sit back heart thudding. How strange, right? You've had your name etched into marble, printed on checks with too many zeros mentioned in Forbes. But this 5-cent piece of paper from a kid you met for 20 minutes feels more permanent than any business deal you've ever closed. It reminds you of something, someone, yourself. In 1973, a little-known study out of the University of Illinois found that children aged 6 to 9 describe success not in terms of money or fame, but in having a lot of time to play and people who laugh with you. Historians still debate whether this was reflective of the post-Vietnam shift in values, or just the pure honesty of children who hadn't yet learned to lie politely. You stare at the drawing again, and for the first time in a long while, something cracks open, not broken, just open. Like an old book you forgot you once loved. The man next to you is typing furiously on a tablet. Something about quarterly returns, you turn away. You fold the drawing neatly and slide it into your leather planner right between 2 pages filled with meetings you're already planning to cancel. The seatbelt sign dings on. The flight attendant smiles mechanically. "We'll be landing soon, Mr. Carmichael." You nod, but your mind's already somewhere else. Somewhere not made of glass towers or stock splits. Somewhere with crayons and dinosaurs and tree houses. You touch your shirt where the coffee stain used to be. Still there. Good. It means the moment was real. And now you think maybe it's time to find out what else you've forgotten. The city greets you with noise and indifference. Horns bleat, lights flicker. A digital billboard shows your face promoting an upcoming tech forum. Innovator, builder, visionary. You look away. Your driver takes you home being a high-rise suite that echoes even with music playing. You drop your bag, loosen your tie, and stand in the foyer for a full minute, just breathing in the stillness. But something pulls you toward the past. You walk to your office, open a drawer you haven't touched in years, and pull out an old shoebox. Inside, layers of yellowed newspaper birthday cards, and one letter folded into fourths, faded and creased. Your mother's handwriting. You forgot you even kept it. The ink is blurred in places, but you can still read most of it. It starts with your full name, Raymond Everett Carmichael, and already you feel 10 years old again. She writes about how proud she is, how she knows you work hard, but also how she worries you've forgotten how to rest, how to feel, how to be. There's a line near the end. Don't chase so hard that you forget what you were chasing for. You swallow hard. In 1945, after the war, soldiers returning home were given ration coupons and medals, symbols of gratitude and survival. But many veterans reported feeling disconnected, unmoored. Historians still argue whether their struggle was about trauma or about the speed of reintegration into a world that had moved on without them. You wonder now, have you moved on without yourself? You refold the letter slower this time, smoothing its edges. Then you sit back and close your eyes. Memories you haven't touched in years begin bubbling up. The way your dad used to build kites with you on the roof of your apartment building. The year you won the science fair with a volcano made from vinegar and paper mache. The sketchbook you filled with impossible inventions, shoes that could fly, glasses that could show dreams. And then the turning point. College, business school, the first startup, the second, the third. Each one a rung on an invisible ladder. Each success applauded louder than the last. People called you brilliant, a disruptor, a genius. But no one ever asked if you were happy. You certainly didn't ask yourself. You open your eyes, the letter sits beside you. The boy's crayon drawing peeks out from your planner. 2 pieces of paper, one from the past, one from the present, and both saying the same thing. Remember. You stand up, walk to your bookshelf, and pull out an old photo album. There you are at age 7, missing a front tooth, holding a popsicle face lit up like a 1,000-watt bulb. No titles, no deadlines. Just joy. You laugh quietly, then louder. You haven't laughed like that in a long time. Maybe not since popsicles cost a quarter and happiness was something you chased barefoot through a sprinkler. You close the album gently as if not to wake the child in the photo, and you whisper to the silence, "I'm still here." The next morning, the sun filters through your windows like soft gold, a little too romantic for a Wednesday, but you let it happen. You don't check your phone right away. You don't check your email. Instead, you walk barefoot across your cold hardwood floors. Each step strange but grounding, like your feet are remembering the earth again. You pour your coffee slower than usual, watch the steam rise. It smells better today, or maybe you're just smelling it for once. The crayon drawing is still tucked inside your planner. You don't open it, you don't need to. But something nags at you, a memory faint and uninvited. You drift to your storage closet, rummage past boxes labeled taxes and Q3 proposals until you find one scrawled in thick black marker, old stuff. Mom's. You carry it to your kitchen table, sit down, and start digging. Letters, photos, a dried corsage from your high school prom, your date's name completely gone from your memory. And then near the bottom, a second envelope. It's addressed to you in handwriting that's unmistakably your mother's, but this one is unopened. You hesitate, then open it. Inside is a folded piece of lined notebook paper. No greeting, no signature, just 5 words underlined 3 times. Please don't become your father. You exhale slowly. The thing is, no one ever really talked about your dad. He was successful, sure. Owned a chain of pharmacies, a workaholic. Everyone said he was driven. But to you, he was the man behind the door. The guy always on the phone. The voice saying, "Not now. Raymond more than good job, son." You stare at the note. It's not angry, not even disappointed, just pleading. And that makes it worse somehow. In ancient Sparta, boys were taken from their families at age 7 to be trained in war. They were taught that showing emotion was weakness and strength was everything. Historians still argue whether this upbringing created warriors or fractured men who never knew how to love freely. You read the letter again. Please don't become your father. You think about your schedule, the dinner tonight with the hedge fund team, the product launch review tomorrow, a speech in Chicago next week. You built this life brick by brick, and now it looks less like a home and more like a fortress. And what's a fortress good for, really, if no one lives inside it with you? You put the letter next to the drawing. Then, almost without thinking, you open your laptop and start canceling things. Not everything, but enough. Your assistant texts, "Are you okay?" You reply, "I'm not sure yet, but I'm trying." You hit send and stare at the screen. Then you walk to your closet, dig out a dusty photo album and a pair of old sneakers you haven't worn in years. They're scuffed, but they still fit. It's time to go somewhere you haven't been in decades. Not a boardroom, not a penthouse. You're going back to where you started. The train ride north is quiet, like the world's giving you permission to think without interruption for once. You sit near the window, watching the city blur into trees and then into open fields, dotted with gas stations and childhood echoes. You haven't taken a train in years. Everything's always been private cars, direct flights, VIP access. But this feels right. Your hometown station hasn't changed much. Still the same chipped benches, still the same soda machine that probably hasn't worked since the Clinton administration. You step off and breathe in something different. It's not fresh exactly, more like familiar, earthy, honest. You rent a car and drive out to the neighborhood where it all began. The streets are narrower than you remember, the house is smaller. It's like someone shrunk your memories in the wash. But then you see it, your old high school. The red brick building still leans slightly on one side, like it's tired from carrying decades of teenage drama. You park across the street and just stare at it. And then, like a pilgrim returning to sacred ground, you walk up the cracked sidewalk and through the rusted front gate. No one's around, it's summer break, and the building stands quiet like it's waiting for something. Maybe you. You press your hand against one of the old locker walls. Cool metal. It still smells faintly of floor wax and stress. There's a flyer for a band concert pinned up with tape that's already curling. You chuckle. Somewhere in this very hallway, you once declared you'd be famous for something big. You just didn't know how small that big would feel one day. There's a room down the west wing, room 112, your old homeroom. You peek through the door and see rows of empty desks, sunlight streaking across the whiteboard. There's a quote written in dry erase marker. "Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success." And under it, Albert Schweitzer. You laugh, of course it is. In 1913, Schweitzer left a prestigious music and theology career in Europe to become a doctor in Africa, founding a hospital in what is now Gabon. Historians still argue whether his motivations were purely altruistic or also tinged with colonial condescension. Either way, he walked away from applause to build something with his hands. You walk through the halls, past the auditorium, past the gym where you got your first and only sports trophy for most improved. You stand there looking at the scuffed wood floor and basketball hoops that now seem laughably low. You didn't come back for nostalgia. You came back for the part of you that got left behind. You sit on the bleachers and close your eyes. You remember being that kid with fire in your belly, not for profit margins, but for ideas, inventions, possibility. A backpack full of snacks and dreams. You don't miss being young. You miss being curious. There's a silence in this gym that feels like an answer to a question you've only just remembered to ask. You let it stretch, let it settle. Then you whisper not to anyone else, just to yourself. I remember now. You drive across town past the diner that used to serve greasy pancakes at midnight, past the corner store where you and your best friend once tried to buy fireworks with a forged note. Everything looks smaller now, but not in a sad way. Just in that way things do when you finally stop running. You pull into the driveway of your sister's house. It's tucked beneath an old elm tree that leans like it's listening. You haven't visited in nearly 2 years. Always too busy, too many projects, too many pitches. But today you called. Today you asked to come by. And today she said, come help us fix the treehouse. The one you helped build when you were 15. You walk into the backyard, and there it is, leaning a little patched with mismatched planks, but still standing. A monument to scraped knees and flashlight secrets. Your niece Mia waves from the top. She's 9, covered in paint, wearing a glittery shirt that says CEO of Playtime. You love her already. Your sister hands you a hammer. Try not to break anything, she teases. You chuckle. Then surprisingly naturally, you climb the ladder. It creaks, but holds. And for the next 2 hours, you hammer nails, hold beams, laugh as a bucket of paint. Water nearly misses your head. You let Mia boss you around. You listen to her explain the importance of emergency escape hatches and rain-proof snack storage. She's got big plans, and she draws them in the dirt with a stick, like she's sketching blueprints for the future. At one point, she pauses. Uncle Ray, do you ever build anything fun? You think of your towering offices, your company's sleek app interface, your endless decks and roadmaps. You say not really. She shrugs. Well, you're good at this. You should build more stuff with your hands. The phrase lodges somewhere deep. In 1974, a group of Danish educators experimented with tool-based learning, giving kids real hammer saws and even nails to build miniature villages. It was considered radical and dangerous. Historians still argue whether it was reckless or the purest form of developmental education. Either way, some of those kids became architects. And most, they just remembered how it felt to make something real. You step back and admire the treehouse. It's not perfect. The walls lean. The roof is a little crooked. But it stands, just like you. Mia hands you a marker. Sign it, she says. You hesitate. Then write your name along the beam next to hers. Small letters, no titles, no companies. Just Ray. Later, your sister brings out lemonade. You sit in the grass, sweaty, dirt-streaked, a little sore in the knees, but lighter somehow. And you realize something. This is the first time in decades you've spent an entire afternoon not chasing something. You weren't networking, weren't performing, you were just here. Present. The kind of presence no app can measure. You sip your lemonade and glance at the sky through the leaves. You forgot how blue it could be. Back in New York, your inbox is full. 37 unread messages. 3 missed calls marked urgent. One assistant on the verge of a breakdown, trying to rearrange the meetings you casually canceled. You sit at your desk watching the screen like it's a fire you no longer want to put out. You don't reply. Not yet. Instead, you pull out your shoes, the nice ones, the ones you only wear when you're supposed to impress a boardroom. You stare at them. Then you set them aside and lace up the sneakers you wore in high school. Faded soft, worn around the edges, like your old ideas about success. You leave your phone on the kitchen counter and walk. Through the city, past the people moving fast, past the coffee shops and the honking taxis, and the men barking into Bluetooths like their words are more important than yours. You walk without direction, without GPS. Just feet on pavement, breath in your chest and sky overhead. Eventually, your legs carry you to the edge of Central Park. There's a shallow creek near the North Woods, one you used to visit as a college student, back when you thought long walks could solve everything. You step off the path through the trees and let yourself sink into the quiet. You sit on a flat stone shoes off feet in the cold water. The chill snaps you alert, but also calms you like nature saying, yep, you're still human. You watch 2 birds fight over a berry. You watch a squirrel bury something and immediately forget where. You laugh. You realize the water's been whispering to you for years. You just haven't been still enough to hear it. In 1845, Henry David Thoreau retreated to Walden Pond to live deliberately rejecting material success, to seek the essence of life in nature. Historians still argue whether he truly detached from society or if he just liked the aesthetics of minimalism with nearby comfort. But either way, he listened to the water, and he wrote things that made the world pause. You pause too. Your feet move in the current. Your mind, for once, does not. You remember something Mia said? You should build more stuff with your hands. You run your fingers over the stone beneath you. It's old, weathered solid. No wires, no Wi-Fi. It exists simply by being. The sun sinks behind the trees, the wind carries a chill, but you don't rush back, because this is the kind of moment you used to race past on your way to bigger things. Now it feels like the biggest thing you've known in years. Eventually you stand, you slide your shoes back on, you walk home slower than before. Not because you're tired, but because you're no longer in a hurry. You open the door to your apartment. The city still hums outside, but your world is quieter now. The crayon drawing is still on your desk. You smile, and tomorrow you'll do something different. Something smaller, but maybe more meaningful. You wake the next morning without an alarm. The sun stretches across your room in long, golden lines, and for the first time in decades, you let it. You don't leap from bed. You lie there, your hands folded behind your head, just breathing. There's a rhythm to it now, slow, gentle, enough. Eventually you sit up, make coffee, no emails, no talking points, just warmth in a cup and a sky painted with promise. You move through your apartment like a guest, like someone seeing it for the first time. You notice how the windows frame the skyline like art, how the hardwood creaks in one spot by the bookshelf. You smile at that. Imperfections used to bother you. Now they feel like proof you've lived. Then the doorbell rings. It's a courier, plain envelope, no return address. You sign thank him and sit down to open it. Inside is a crayon drawing. Another one. This time it's you and Mia on a ladder holding tools, a big treehouse above your heads, and a sun with sunglasses. At the bottom, in capital letters, she's written, Uncle Ray builds cool stuff now. You laugh, then choke up, then sit back in your chair and let it all hit you. All the things you missed, all the moments you outran, all the chances you thought would slow you down but might have made you whole. In 1897, the artist Paul Gauguin painted Where Do We Come From? What are we? Where are we going? A massive canvas exploring human life from infancy to death. Historians still argue whether it was a statement of existential crisis or hope. But the question remains timeless. You stare at the drawing and ask yourself, where am I going now? You don't have a 5-year plan, not anymore. Instead, you do something unexpected. You pull out a fresh sheet of paper, a blank one, and you draw, not for clients, not for strategy decks. You draw a little sun, a ladder, a treehouse, a tiny dinosaur with sunglasses. You laugh at how bad it is, but it's yours. You hang it on the fridge, then barefoot again, you walk out onto your balcony. The city pulses below, but up here it's just wind and light. You close your eyes, your chest rises, falls, again. You think of your mother's letter, of Luca's question, of Mia's voice calling from the treehouse, and you feel something click into place. You finally understand. You weren't chasing success. You were running from yourself, and now you've come home. The sun dips lower. The sky fades from gold to lavender. Somewhere a wind chime sings. You breathe it in. Longer now, slower, more real. And now wind down. You lean back in your chair, the sounds of the city fading, like the end of a long, strange dream. The walls of your apartment breathe with silence. The kind that doesn't beg to be filled. Just accepted. You're no longer rushing. You're resting. You're remembering that your value never lived in your calendar, your contracts, or your accolades. It lived in your ability to feel wonder. And wonder has returned. Outside, the night hushes everything. You close your eyes. You see the crayon sun. You feel the treehouse beneath your hands. And you smile. Not because you won, but because you finally stopped needing to. The stars come out one by one. You're still here. You're still whole. And you are truly finally enough.